There's so much information when it comes to reading. How do you teach reading? What's the best approach to teaching reading? I still, to this day, have not seen one curriculum that brings it all together. So what I try to do within the hour and 15 minutes with you today is taking 5 days of training, and we're going to try and squish it into 1 hour and 15 minutes. So strap your seatbelt on and let's go for it. Your first piece when you do start with your students is you want to start with their basic consonant sounds and their vowel sounds. And why this is so important is because sometimes we may assume that your students actually know their individual sounds. Do they know t? Do they know f? And they may, but you don't know this as an instructor. What you can do is a simple, what I call a sound dissymbol test. And what you're going to do is you're going to call out the sounds of all the consonants and the vowels within the English language. So then let's say your paper is going to look like this. Can everybody see this okay? All right. So what you can do is you're going to put vowels on one side. Can you guys see this? Consonants on the other. And you're just basically going to do a quick dictation because you need a starting point of what does my student know, what do they not know. They're an adult, so they appear to be able to read. Obviously, they wouldn't be with you if they were having issues, but we don't know to what level is their weakness. So this is a quick, free way to just dive in. So if we start with our consonant sounds, I'm going to go ahead and write out all of the consonant sounds that we're looking for, and then I'm just going to quickly go through them and give you a word to compare them with. And then we're going to go through all of the vowel sounds in the English language. I'll enunciate them for you, and I'll even give you words that you can mimic them with. Because sometimes what happens is all of us come with different backgrounds. We don't enunciate our vowel sounds well. And we really want to make sure we're very specific and clear with them when we're teaching reading. Honestly, I think vowel sounds are probably the most important sound. They're more important than the consonant sounds. Not to compare the two or hurt anybody's feelings, but I think the vowels are more important. Okay, so if we, and you probably have seen different reading programs that go through and pair consonant sounds, p, b. So you have the word pie. You would have the word bake. If you want to do T and D, t for talk, D for dog. If I go, and I may lose you guys over here. K and G, K for kick, G for goat. If I put these two together, F and V, F for fox, V as in Victoria. If I, TH, we have digraphs. We have a quiet TH and a noisy TH. So you have where they're biting on their tongue, and then Z, where they're biting on their tongue, but it's a voiced sound. The difference would be a quiet one would be thank you. Normally, not always, but you're going to find a quiet TH in front of a word, and then more than likely, but not always, you're going to find the noisy TH at the end of a word, such as, well, that's not a good example. I'm thinking bath. I may have reversed those. Those is going to be noisy in front. Bath, where the quiet's on the end. So sorry, I did that backwards. Can you see that okay? Our next ones would be S and Z. So you may have Susie, and then you may have Z for zoo. And I'm going to give you a rhyme and reason, quick overview of why these are paired the way that they are. Then we have SH and CH. SH is going to give you a word like shape. And this guy's a little bit tricky because we don't spell with ZH, but what we do is we have words in the English language that actually enunciate the zh sound, such as Asia, which is an SI. SI together actually enunciates that ZH sound. Kind of crazy. Then we have CH and J. So you have CH for Charles or chat. Then you have J for Jack. Let's see. We have M, N, and NG. M, Mary. N is N, Nancy. Then you have your NG, such as king. There's a different type of reading programs that go into NG need to be by themselves, and you have ING that makes it a a vowel sound. Then you have different enunciations according to whether you're from the East Coast or from the West Coast. I'll have students from the East Coast come in and I'll have them spell the word king, and they'll say, did you mean king? And I'll, no, I actually meant king, but on the East Coast it is king because you do enunciate the G. That's okay, that's more of a cultural difference. That's okay, I don't need her to change for me or vice versa. I'll come back to anything, oh, we have W, H, and WH. So W by itself, maybe you take the word walk. You take the sound such as hat. And then WH is just a little bit more air, such as wear. So the rhyme and reason of pairing these consonants is because of the way that you feel your tongue in your mouth, which is called articulatory feedback. So if I actually try to reproduce P and B, we're not using our tongue, I'm actually focusing on my lips. So for P, it's P, my lips are gonna pop. And then B, my lips are gonna pop again. But what you have is a voiced and unvoiced sound. So if you put your hands on your throat, P, everyone say P. Was it quiet or noisy? P. It's quiet like a whisper. Now try B. Was it quiet or noisy? And some kids are like, no, 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 it was quiet, it was quiet. And so what they're trying to feel is a cat. If they've ever pet a cat before and it purrs, ask them if their throat is purring so they can feel that vibration. Or another comparison to really identify that noisy sound would be a Z sound. Zzz. So it vibrates for a long period of time, so it's really obvious what's quiet and what's noisy. So this would be considered a quiet lip popper. This one would be considered a noisy lip popper. The language that goes with it is you're using your lips and you're popping them. One is quiet, one is noisy, which is why they've been paired, because you're using the same place in your mouth. If you go to the next two sounds, T and D, we'll go back to our hands again. So we're gonna use our tongue for this one. If I make a T sound or a D sound, the tip of my tongue is actually gonna go and lift and tap. T, T, D, D. Can you feel the tip of your tongue matching what your hand is doing? And when you do this with your students, what you're doing, you're creating this multi-sensory piece to where they can see what you're doing, they can hear what you're doing, but now they're feeling it. They're feeling it in their mouth and they're feeling it with their hands. So everyone put their hands up and let's try a T sound together. T, t. The tip of your tongue lift, like your hand is. Okay, was it quiet or noisy? T, t. It's quiet. All right, now let's go to the partner. Who's the partner? D. So now I'm going to lift, D, D. Excuse me, I'm going to lift the front of my tongue again, D, D. And let's see if it's quiet or noisy. D. Quiet or noisy? Noisy. Was I using my tongue or my lips? Tongue. So I'm going to start off the label with a tongue, and I'm tapping my tongue. So I'm going to call it a tongue tapper. I have a quiet tongue tapper, and I have a noisy tongue tapper. Can you see why they're being paired so far this way? And this is really easy for your students to pick up, and when they're older, it makes it that much quicker for them to identify and just to quickly go through and correct consonant sounds. Another one is going to be a K sound. So we're going to get our hands again. Let's see where our tongue goes. Let's see, everyone make a K sound. K. Is the front of your tongue lifting or the back? K, K. The back. So we're going to go like this. We're going to scrape the back of our tongue. Quiet or noisy? K. It is quiet. All right, let's check his partner. What sound does this one make? You sure it's not a J? It is a G. And to know, and a lot of students will switch their G's and J's, have them go back and see when they do make a J sound, are they scraping the back of their tongue? If they're not, you want to get them to scrape the back of their tongue so that they're actually producing the G versus the J. That can help clear up the confusion between those two sounds. So if we do the G, are we scraping the back of our tongue again? G. Yes. Is it quiet or noisy? It's noisy. So did these two go together with the same placement in our mouth? One's quiet, one's noisy. Are we using our tongue or our lips? Tongue, and we're tongue tappers, exactly. Excuse me, tongue scrapers. We're scraping the back of our tongue. So we have lip poppers, tongue tappers, tongue scrapers. All right? We're going to quickly run through these, and then we're going to get to the other pieces of this. We're even going to get to syllable types, which is really going to throw your students into reading a lot faster than you anticipated. Down to F and V. So we're not using our tongue on this one. We're actually checking the amount of air that we're going to blow out of our mouth. So if everyone without, and thank goodness we all had lunch, if you gently bite on your lip, you're blowing out air. Now see if it's quiet or noisy. It is quiet. So you're biting on your lip and you're cooling it off. Now let's try its noisy partner. Is it noisy? So I'm using my lip and I'm cooling it off, so I'm going to call it a lip cooler. Okay? Any questions so far with what we're doing? All right? Sorry, can you see okay? Then we're going to go to our quiet, noisy TH. So TH, instead of biting your tongue, you're now going to bite your lip, but very gentle. So you want to bring your tongue out just a little bit to where you're overemphasizing it. Okay, quiet or noisy? Okay, now let's make it noisy. Good, and it kind of feels funny. It's a little bit of vibration on your tongue. So because we're biting on our tongue, we're cooling it off. We're going to call it a tongue cooler. Exactly. We have a quiet tongue cooler, noisy tongue cooler. Okay, now we're going to get to our S and our Z. Okay, so we have these three can almost be paired to what you would consider these three guys as air sounds. And the reason why we're going to call them air sounds is because we're checking the amount of air that's coming out of their mouth. So if I say a S sound, and put your hand in front of you, S, and now try sh. Which one had less air? The S. And then try this one, ch. Did that one have more or less than the S? Definitely a lot more, exactly. So we're going to go back to the S. You're going to put your hand on your throats, quiet or noisy? Quiet, okay? Then we'll try the noisy partner. How do we do that sound? So this was the smallest amount of air, so you're going to call it a skinny air stream. It's an air of stream that you're blowing out of your mouth, but you're going to call it a skinny air stream because we have the three different airs of stream. We're going to have a skinny air stream, we're going to have a big air stream, and then we're going to have a big air push stream. So let's try our big air. Shh. Now try the noisy one. Okay, so those are considered a quiet, noisy, big air stream. Why would it be different? These two are S and Z skinny because it's a smaller amount of air. SH and ZH is going to be considered a big air stream because it's a larger, it's more air than the S and Z. So we're kind of going from small, little, a little bit more air, and the most amount of air. So if we go to the most amount of air, but now we're going to get a little bit of push. Let's try the ch, ch. Is that quiet or noisy? Ch, ch, ch. It is quiet, surprisingly quiet. Now try the J. J. Quiet or noisy? Noisy. So we have three types of air streams. We have S and Z. Thank you for asking. We'll call these skinny air stream. Can you see that okay? Then we have SH and ZH. We're going to call these big air stream. And if you're teaching your student and you change it from skinny to small, it means the same thing. It's not that big of a deal. I mean, the earth isn't going to come to an end because you changed the name of a label, just so long as it means the same thing. All right. Then we have CH and J, which are our pairs. We're going to call this a big air push. Let's do M, N, and G, and we're going to call them nose sounds, and we're going to call them according to front, middle, and end, or back. So when I go into M, so what you're going to do is you're going to actually pinch your nose, and we're going to see what happens when you make an M sound and you pinch your nose. Everyone try it. What happened? Why? Why can't you make the sound? This sound has to go through your nose. And if you block it, you can't have the sound come out. So that's going to be considered So is in the front because we're blocking the air from the front of our mouth. If you compare it to everyone try that sound. Plug your nose. Can you produce the sound? No, because we need our nose, right? So when we did the we're blocking the air from the front of our mouth. When we did the we moved back a little bit, and now we're blocking the air from the middle of our nose, so it's considered a middle nose. Then at the end, or the back, is your NG sound. You're actually lifting the back of your tongue, and it's in your throat, and you're connecting it to where you're blocking it. So it's a back nose sound because you're blocking the air from the back of your throat. All right, let's go to our WH. These three are called air streams. And we're going to see if I'm going to blow out a lot of air or just a little bit of air. I'm just going to do the W sound. Wah, wah. Little. Little. Okay, let me try my next sound, H. Was it more or less than the W? More. Okay. So now let's try WH. So it was the most out of all of them. So these are going to be called windy sounds because we're blowing the air out. So we have a little bit of windy sound, which hardly moves your pen or pencil. And it helps to show that to your students because they're not really sure how much should they be emphasizing these sounds when they're reading or when they're just trying to do the individual sounds. So you have the wha, the with wha, and hua. Any questions on these guys? Because now we're going to run into my favorite, vowels. If they don't master these vowel sounds, they're not going to really master the 6 syllable types that I'm going to introduce to you. So what I tell students, the vowels are probably the hardest part of reading. They're the hardest part in the word. They're the loudest part of our words as well. Because if I give you a person's name, Pat, the loudest part of my voice is actually the vowel sound. Because if I take the a out of Pat, what would the, right, I can't yell, and I have a really loud voice, I have a very big mouth, so there's no way that I can even get that into the other room. But if I throw my vowel in there, Pat, I can really, really give power to that vowel sound, because the vowels are the loudest part of the word. The reason why it's been designed this way, if I had a nose, my nose here, my ear here. So basically, if you guys can only see this side of my face, and if you were able to see inside my face, which would be really gross, you would actually be able to see the side of my tongue and how it can move forward and backwards. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. Basically, it's just going to help you guys group your vowel sounds together. So if we start off with our very first smile sound, it's E says E. Your jaw's completely up. It's an E sound. Are there other ways to spell E? Absolutely, there's several ways. Right now we're just going through the vowel sounds, and there are several ways to spell a lot of our vowel sounds. Okay, I'm going to drop my jaw a little bit, and I'm going to say I. So these two, I and are our two biggest and two hardest vowels because students can't hear the difference between the two. So for you guys trying to teach it, some of us have a hard time differentiating between the two sounds. So as instructors, give yourself a cheat sheet. So give yourself igloo. So you can actually go igloo or even the word it, just so you're getting that I and you're really honing in on that one sound. Does anybody remember that show called Ed when you were really little, the horse? I know, that's really bad. The younger ones are like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Okay, so if you wanted to really hone in on that sound, then try and use ed, because you just want to hear that sound, because we really confuse it a lot, Kids may say igloo versus igloo. For you teaching it, you need to be able to pronounce it correctly so you can help correct them when they mispronounce it. And it gets really, really difficult when we get into bigger words. The other way to know the difference between these two is their jaw is going to drop just a little bit. With each of these sounds, your jaw drops a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. So if I go from I to my I sound just may be my fingertip between my teeth, I. And I'm going to drop my jaw a little bit more for the So that's why it's so confusing, because there's that much difference between enunciating the two. Just a little drop of your jaw. All right, our next sound, E, I, We have our long A sound, A. We have if you're not pronouncing this correctly, I cannot tell you how many times students will look at this, the letter A, and say ah. Spanish speaking, all the time. So you want to go ah. Your other one is E. They're going to see the letter E by itself and call out the long vowel sound E. They're going to look at I and want to call out the long vowel sound I. One thing I highly recommend is when you introduce vowels, always start off with your 5 vowel sounds, short vowel sounds only. Only focus on short vowel sounds, which is I, a, only do words that have those short vowel sounds. Don't do any long vowel sounds, because as adults, they've heard all of these different vowel sounds. They don't know the difference between short and long. You really want to establish that, and you really want to make sure that those are strong, because as I move forward and I start introducing you to syllable types, there's no way you're going to be able to move them into the bigger words if they don't know the difference between a short vowel sound and a long vowel sound, if they can't produce it and they can't hear the difference between it. So how do we teach these different ones? You can go through, you can try and teach the vowel circle, and again, I apologize, there are no handouts. But what you can also do is create word lists for them that are really simple. With adult learners, I would highly recommend doing nonsense words. Are you guys familiar with nonsense words? We're talking about ip, ap. Well, up is a real word, op. And you're just doing short vowel sounds, just mechanically, over and over and over, repetitive, repetitive, repetitive. All right. Umbrella. If we have a hard time reproducing the sound, create a visual for yourself. Any of these. Apple, umbrella, ed, igloo. I'm not giving you any for the long vowel sounds. Those are just so easy to produce. The short ones are the ones you really want to focus on. Our job then drops down to the ah sound. Can we think of a word that starts with ah? They're all of them. I'm going to go for October. Because you're just trying to get that vowel sound for you as the instructor. How do I make sure I'm teaching my student correctly? And how do I make sure that they're enunciating it correctly? I've had a couple high school students that they mastered the long vowel sounds, but the short ones were still giving them a hard time. I just had them draw a picture where that vowel sound, it has to be the first letter, or excuse me, it has to be the first sound in the word, and have them just draw a picture of an igloo. Have them draw a picture, they can pick ed, they can pick anything else that starts with e. Can you think of another word that starts with e? That's easy to draw. Egg, even better, thank you. That's fabulous. Let's go with egg. We can draw an egg. But you can actually help them with this and give them their own cheat sheets where they have their vowels on their vowel ring. So one index card is I, the next index card is e. So you're creating little flip charts for them that they can take with them. I mean, if they're adults, if they've come to you as adults, they want to learn how to read. They are hungry for this. They're going to be at a stoplight, they're going to be at a bus, they're going to be cooking dinner, they're going to whip out their flashcards because they really want this for themselves. So you create these little cheat sheets, it's probably going to come back ripped and torn and bent because they're practicing it. Let's make it easy for them. Okay, AU or AW and AU make the same sound. Ah, a puppy, they jump up on you and they put their paws on you. Or the name Paul. Okay, now we're going to go into the long O sound. O, toe. This one, so this guy looks like this. It's basically 2 O's. We have oo, as in school's perfect. Thank you. Excellent example. Okay, but then guess what we want them to do? We want them to read a book, same 2 O's. But OO has 2 enunciations to it. So on this vowel circle, when you guys get your handout, you're going to see this really odd looking shape. It's just OO again, just physically showing you that it can make another sound. Okay. If you create an image, a picture that matches the vowel sound to go in a whole different piece, you want to trigger their memory because they need to really memorize these vowel sounds. How do you trigger the memory? Visuals. If you use visuals, you're actually tapping into that memory part of your brain and saying, hey, I need to memorize this. So it's like when we watch a movie. We can all probably say what movie we saw last weekend, and we can probably go to the different scenes and pick out the funniest scene or how the movie ended. But if you were to ask, well, what book did you read last weekend? Well, if you're a reader, you can probably name it off. If you're not a reader, it's going to be a lot more difficult. So how do you build the memory? Visuals. Just create little pictures of these with the vowel sounds on it, and you're going to see your students really mastering these vowel sounds. The smiles, when you are starting off with our vowel circle and you're actually at the top of the E, we're smiling. E, I, A, the smile, the jaw just drops. With each little step, it drops. We drop it all the way down to open, where my jaw is now open. Ah, ah, ah. Then my jaw comes back up again to slowly morphing into a round sound. So I'm at ah. And I come up to O, oo. So I just went from E, my jaw being completely up. My jaw dropped a little bit with each step. My jaw's dropping, drop, drop. I come all the way down to an open sound. My jaw's completely open like I'm at a dentist. Ah. And then I'm actually going to come back up and slowly bring my jaw up with each little step to where it's back up. But now it's into a round. Ooh. The other thing is, the reason why Patricia Lindemuth did this is, again, looking at that side view. When you start with your smiles, the tip of your tongue is actually right behind your teeth. It's in the front of your mouth. So if you're comparing your tongue to where your nose is in your ear, so if I have my side, if you guys are seeing my side view and you see my long tongue, what happens, I start here with this very first sound. The tip of my tongue is in the front of my mouth. E. Everyone say E. Do you feel your tongue in the back by your throat, or is it right here behind your teeth? E. If I make an E sound, E, the tip of my tongue's closer to my nose. It's not back here by my ear. Okay? Now if I say I, where's the tip of my tongue? Is it going to be closer to my nose or back by my ear? I. It's closer to my nose. Now say E and go down to Ah. What happened to your tongue? It did two things. E, to ah, my tongue moved back just a little bit and then it dropped. Because I went from E, ah. So my tongue actually came back a little bit and then it dropped all the way down. Now when I go from the ah to an oo, your tongue's going to do two things. It's going to do two different actions. Let's see what it does. Ah, ooh. What two things happened? So our jaw came up is one move, and our tongue went back towards our ear a little bit. Are controlled, and you've probably heard of these. The LIPS program calls them crazy R's. I like to call them are controlled. Just it's easier, I think, as we go into the syllable types. So we have three vowel sounds. They make the exact same sound, and Okay. Then we have or, and then we have are. Does it matter what order you put them in? No. Just so long as these three are grouped together, they're making three sounds, and these two have separate boxes because they make two separate sounds. So we're actually going to come back to this guy and introduce him as a suffix pretty soon. So there'll actually be a connection. So if you guys wanted to, I'll let you do your homework and come up with words that actually have these vowel sounds in them. You're looking at purse, fur, curl, things like that. Put them on their little cheat sheet, attach it to their ring. So they have a visual to match with that vowel sound. You go into or, you're looking at porch, Porsche. If you look at R, car, but create a word that is easy for you to put a picture to. You created the visual aid. They practiced it. They now see it in a word. Their brain is going to have it waiting for them when they see it in a word. It works. You have to take my word for it. Okay. Let's go to our digraphs. Two letters that make one sound. Okay. Our first one will have I, pie. The next one is, and this is a hard one, you. You. Because you're looking at a word like cube. Blue. Thank you. That's a perfect example. Glad you brought that one up. So a lot of times, here we have the word blue. So our vowel sound is the UE here. However, we're not enunciating U. We're not making that vowel say its name. So the tricky part with U, and this is just with this particular vowel, when he's long, he actually sounds like this. Ooh. Just with UE, just that U sound. When you actually enunciate the word, students may actually, if you have them spell it, they may put an OO, which will make sense because they're actually spelling it phonetically, because that's exactly what they hear is ooh. I don't hear blue. Nice blue shirt you have on. So it would be blue. Nice blue shirt that you have on. So just keep in mind, you know, down the line, if your students are confused on, they're spelling it with this, they're reading this, but it's being enunciated this way, and it's with that long U sound. So thank you for that blue. Okay, now we have oi and oi. Toy, boy, foil. You're creating images for both spellings. Your next ones are ow and ow. Ouch, cow. So we've done phonology. Before we get to structural analysis, I have to bring in phonological awareness. This is students knowing how many sounds are in a word. Are they keeping the sounds in order? So let's say you take that nonsense word list that you give them. Ip, op, pop, that's a real word. Fop, fip, fap. And what you're doing is you can get like a little ball, a little squishy ball, something that you can toss back and forth with the student. And let's say, I'm not going to throw this at you, but let's say I toss it to Tiffany and I say, okay, say pop. You would say, and I would say, what's your first sound in pop? Great. So then she would just toss it back to me with the p, with the answer p. And I would say, okay, we're going to do pop again. Tell me your vowel sound. Pop. What's your, sorry, I won't throw it. What's your vowel sound? So our vowel sound is ah. Okay. When you say pop, what's your last sound? Good. A lot of students can't do that. They can't tell you their first sound in pop. They certainly can't tell you the last sound in pop, and they cannot tell you the vowel sound or the middle sound in the word. So what you want to do is create an activity to where you're actually manipulating the placement. That's going to be when you're looking at a code like this with all short vowel sounds. You want to know, they need to know what's their first sound, what's their middle sound, what's their last sound. So play with words. You can do real words, you can do nonsense words, it doesn't matter. But what you're doing is you're getting their brain used to keeping sounds in order. So when I say dop, I have d, a, p. What's my last sound? There's my last sound. Perfect. Okay, what's your first sound in dop? Out of these three, d. What was our middle sound in dop? Ah. Good. So you're just helping them identify. Be careful they're not grouping two sounds together or the first two sounds together. So if I have the word fip and I ask for the first sound, they're not saying fi. Or if I ask for the last sound, they're not saying ip. You want to make sure that they're the individual sounds, just like what I just pointed out with the vowel sounds and the consonant sounds. All of those are individual sounds. Dolch words for sight words. When these students are reading for you, if they have a book that they're reading, if they get stuck on a word, have them write it down. Get a little, you can buy these at Walmart, you can get them at the dollar store, they're little recipe boxes, and you create sight words for them as flashcards. So the words that they have a hard time reading, let them bring that to you. So if we go into syllable types, we are talking about breaking up words in the English language according to the vowels that are being represented in the word. We have 6 kinds of syllable types. Our first one is a closed syllable. How about the word hat? Would that be closed? Yes. Why is it closed? There's a consonant at the end. There's one vowel. The vowel is short. What if I give you the word hi? Hi, how are you? Is that closed? Why not? It is open because the word doesn't end with a consonant and my vowel is long. So that's why that word cannot be closed. So if you take the word, one syllable word such as sad, it ends with a consonant, there's one vowel in the word and it's short. If we take it to a multisyllabic word, 2 syllables, rab actually ends with a consonant, the vowel is short, and same with the second syllable, bit. The vowel is short, it ends with a consonant. So I can't write on this, but when I actually start having, I get a list of like 2-syllable words that are just all closed or even overlapping when I introduce more syllable types too, I'll actually have them code it with like a C under here and a C under here. Because we're doing this manual, you can do a slash between them. I'm one that likes to scoop my syllables. I'm gonna have them underline their vowel sounds. Okay, they're scooping their first syllable, they're gonna scoop their second syllable, and now I'm gonna mark the syllable. And I'm putting C because C stands for closed. Your index cards that you have, write this on your first index card. You're gonna be writing these down for your students. Well, first, you're probably gonna be doing these flashcards with the vowel sounds for your students. Each of you only have probably 10 cards in there. So write down your very first syllable. Syllable type number 1 is called closed. Let's label it closed. Let's make up a quick cheat sheet for you. This is what you're gonna write at the top of your, can you see that over there? Okay. You're gonna write closed at the top, and you may even wanna use a different color. And over here, right at the end, you're gonna do just a C, a capital C, because that's what they're gonna code it with when they're reading. More than likely, I'm going to sit down with them and say, hey, we talked about close syllables last week, and we're talking about short vowel sounds, and all of a sudden I look at my student and they look like a deer in headlights. They have no idea what I'm talking about. It was almost as if I never introduced the concept to them. So what do we need to do? What builds memory? Pictures, visual aids, cheat sheets. This is what our students need. So what I do is, here's my cheat sheet. And I create it for the student. It has the syllable type closed on it. It has the little C over here for coding so they know what to do with it. And then it has all 3 rules on there of what they're looking for. Then on the back, what you can do is write out a list of real words that match it. And then you can write out nonsense words if you want that match it, just so they have that visual aid of what that looks like. And it goes in their box. So that next time you go to review what a closed syllable is, you tell them, get your box, go get that syllable type out. And what they're going to do is I start my sessions that way, get your syllable types out. And I can guarantee you the first 5 or 6 times I ask them to go look for their syllable types, they have no idea what I'm asking for. But they know what section to look for. And then as soon as they start getting all their cards out, they're like, oh, syllable types. And all of a sudden now the language is starting to match what I'm asking for them. And it's just all getting into that long-term memory again. And you're creating that visual aid, something that they can touch, something they can see. All right, now we have silent E. However, when I go have them code it on the card, I actually do a V-E. The V stands for the vowel, the dash will stand for like a consonant, and then the E. This is great practice when you do nonsense words. So let's say I give them the word ope. They're gonna cross out the E, and they can, if you want them to code it with the macron to show that it's a long vowel sound, you can do that. But then I actually have them go through and scoop it and then show me what syllable type it is. Then like, let's say I have this word, op. It's a short vowel sound. So they're actually gonna go and mark the syllable as closed. And what I'm doing is giving them real words and nonsense words, and they're having to manually go in, and the very first rule that they have to do is underline your vowel sounds. So if they're reading that word ope, they've got to go back, they've got to go and identify what's the vowel in that word. Because what happens is we start seeing these letters on the page and their eyes are like, I have no idea where to start. I don't know where my starting point is. This is your starting point for reading and with spelling. If I were to have them spell, okay, I want you to spell the word ope. Liz is gonna look at me like, I have no idea what you're asking me. And I'll say, okay, when you say lope, what's your vowel sound, Liz? And she would say, oh. We're going back to identifying that vowel sound, not the vowel letter, but the vowel sound in the word. There's a big difference in that. So we have digraphs in our English language, which kind of goes back to those vowel sounds, 2 letters that make 1 sound. Okay, what are the digraphs in our English language? Let's see. This can go on a separate cheat sheet on your index cards. And these are for you. As you're flipping through, you kind of have a memory moment. I'm 46. I cannot tell you how many times I'm like, I forgot my name today. So it's like, where's my cheat sheet? What's my dog's name? Oh, that's my husband. Well, who are you? You look familiar. I'm going to get my cheat sheet out. Add more index cards to this. Okay, so you have WH, SH, TH, CH, and CK. Yes, PH, you are correct. That would be another guy. So I put them in these, well, Wilson language puts them in this order because WH you find at the front of the word. You're not going to see WH as the last sound in a word. You're going to see it at the front of a word. The SH, TH, and CH is actually in the middle because you can actually find either one of these in the front of a word or at the end of the word. CK is at the end because you do not find him as the first letter or first spelling, first sound of a word. Well, you may hear it as a first sound, but you're not going to see the spelling as CK. So that's why it's in this order. So on that note, we're going to come back to our digraph. And we know that digraph makes how many sounds? One sound. How many letters do we have? Two. So we have a fabulous digraph here, which means if we wanted to add a little fourth guy here, we can say that E can jump back one sound. So this little guy thinks he's a high jumper. He jumps over the TH and it's one sound, so actually E has the range. He has the jumping range, the running and jumping range to make it over TH because it's only one sound. So he's actually going to make him long to where this does say bathe. However, let's say I were to do the word, let's say I were to, this word. Can E jump over and make him say his name? No, because those are two sounds. Those are two separate sounds. Those are not digraphs, those are blends. E cannot jump over blends. He can only jump over digraphs. One sound he can only jump over. So this is a word that doesn't play fair, which goes into a whole nother discussion. Put it on a card, put it in their box, their sight word box for them to go through and memorize their sight words. Okay, an open syllable is kind of the opposite of your closed syllable. Let's do a two-syllable word. Behind. I'm going to underline my vowels. This guy, so we're now only focused on syllable types, one syllable at a time. This guy's open. This one's going to be closed because there's one vowel. The syllable ends with the vowel and the vowel is long. R controlled. So we had all of our the 5 R controls that we had from our vowel circle. If we take the word, oh, they do have farmer, okay? We have far-mer. If I go back to underline my vowel sounds, I'm going to underline R and I'm not just going to underline the E, and I'm just not going to underline the A, because that A is attached to the R. That E is attached to the R. So I'm underlining my vowel sounds. I'm going to scoop between my syllables. As they code it, it'll look like this. So let's say I gave you this word. I'm going to underline my vowel sounds. I now have 2 vowel sounds, which means I have how many syllables? 2 syllables. If I have 4 vowel sounds, how many syllables is that? 4. If I have 50 vowel sounds in a word, how many syllables? 50. So the same amount of vowel sounds equals the same amount of syllables in a word. If they're not hearing a vowel sound, they shouldn't be putting it in a word. Okay, so now how am I going to break this? I'm going to break here because I can see this guy being open, and now I can see this guy being a vowel consonant E. So now I can actually, because I'm now coding it, I'm dissecting the word. You're teaching them dissecting abilities with reading, which makes it so much easier for their eyes when they go to read words they're not familiar with. What would my first syllable say? Mo. Tabe. Mo-tabe. So I'm using the syllable types to read. So your R-controlled literally are just these guys right here. You have your IR, UR, ER, AR, OR. So there's 2 more different syllable types. Your 2 vowels would be your, considered your vowel digraphs, AY, EA, OA. Any of the vowels that have 2 letters making one sound, they're going to be considered 2 vowels. AI is a double vowel, AY is a double vowel. That falls under the double vowel. Your consonant LEs are words that end with the BLE, bubble, or ZLE, puzzle. Don't follow what the dictionary says. Whatever you do, these syllable types will not be the same thing as the dictionary. The dictionary is not correct on the syllables, just to give you a heads up.